If I ever lived in a superhero world like DC, Marvel, Invincible, Dragon Ball Z, any type of superhero world that has to deal with catastrophic events happening every single day due to supervillains trying to take over or destroy the world slash city, or heroes turning rogue and now are causing catastrophic events and are causing a lot of property damage that is also being a big factor in a lot of deaths spiking, I swear to God, I will be so mad. I will be so frustrated having to constantly relocate towns, having to constantly relocate cities. I will always be on edge every single time I live in these fictional worlds, because the powers that these heroes and villains have, they are so powerful that in one fight the entire city can be destroyed. We have seen this example happening in all of the four major superhero franchises like Marvel, DC, Dragon Ball Z, and Invincible. And if you're a civilian, if you're an average Joe, 9 times out of 10 you're likely gonna be killed. And even though yes, there are a lot of civilians that get saved by Superman, Spider-Man, the Avengers, Batman, Wonder Woman, you name it, hell, even Invincible tries to save as many civilians as he possibly can. But the reason why I'm bringing up this topic is because the Invincible season 3 episode 6, it actually highlights this problem, and I really like how they implemented this story from the comics onto the small screen, because to be honest with you, I actually sympathize and agree with the main villain of this episode. And ever since I saw this main villain when I was reading the comics years back, I actually sympathize with this villain. And now you're probably asking yourself, yo, big bro, who is this villain you're talking about? Why would you want to sympathize with a villain that puts people in harm's way? Well, this villain is called Powerplex, and if you know his story is actually so sad, but it's so understanding, because if you were in his shoes, you would actually feel some of the same feelings that he is going through right now. Because Powerplex's origin in the comics and in the show, I am really happy that they actually showcased his real origin. But his origin is that during the initial fight with Omni-Man fighting Invincible, and Omni-Man was trying to enact his real plan for the Viltrumite Empire to terraform and take over Earth and basically make Earth be a part of the Viltrumite Empire. During that fight, there were a lot of deaths in that fight, 2,000 plus deaths to be exact, and Invincible was trying his best to not only survive and not only try to talk Omni-Man down and trying to tell him to stop what he's doing, but Invincible was trying to save people as well. But obviously when you have an incredibly strong crash out like Omni-Man standing in your way, it's going to be considerably hard trying to protect anyone when you have to worry about Omni-Man beating your ass. And this actually ties into the catastrophe, the disastrous event of this fight, because remember, this fight happened in Chicago. This fight actually continued into the Chicago subway. This fight destroyed a lot of the buildings in Chicago, and after this fight left Chicago, we saw that the city was in ruins. And out of the 2,000 plus deaths that happened in this fight, someone really did not forget what happened, because his sister and his sister's daughter, aka his niece, they died during this fight. They perished because of the actions of Omni-Man and unfortunately Invincible. Even though Invincible was trying to stop the fight, Invincible, he unknowingly actually contributed to all of the 2,000 plus deaths. And this person that was there was Powerplex. So we see a time skip into the future, and we're seeing that Powerplex is working for the GDA in the Pentagon. And Powerplex, he already has powers by himself, but his powers are actually miniature in scale, so that he actually comes up with a plan with his wife to steal some high equipment tech from the GDA, from his job, so that he can power himself. And this tech, he basically has to insert them into his body, and he puts some of them to his back, some of them on his arms, and he is trying to power up himself so that he can be strong enough to call out Invincible. And one scene I really love that they did, that they actually implemented it well from the comics onto the small screen, was when Powerplex was trying to prepare his speech in front of his wife, and he was going all out. He's basically trying to show what his speech is going to look like when he confronts Invincible in front of his wife. So they actually put that scene word to word, bar for bar, one to one, and I really love that. You know, I am a sucker for comic book accuracy. But the person that is voice acting Powerplex in this episode, if you hear his voice, you will actually realize that this person is Aaron Paul. And Aaron Paul, he portrayed Jesse Pinkman in the peak 10 out of 10 Breaking Bad show. So as soon as I heard that, I knew that, yep, this episode is going to be good because of Aaron Paul's performance. And Aaron Paul did not disappoint in this episode. He actually made this episode so good. So we're seeing that Powerplex is trying to enact his plan of going into the city and trying to lure Invincible to his location so that he can fight Invincible, he can confront Invincible, and he can kill Invincible. But he just doesn't want to kill Invincible. He wants Invincible to face justice for the deaths that he caused, specifically for his sister and his niece. So we see that Powerplex, he isn't really a villain per se, but he is an antagonist, but he just wants Invincible to face the crimes that he thinks Invincible caused. Because since Omni-Man is not on Earth to face his crimes as of right now, the next best possible person to actually face justice for what happened in Chicago is Invincible. So we're seeing that Powerplex, he's trying to goad Invincible to the location, but like one-to-one with the comics, exactly like what the comics did, that doesn't work, because we see that Shapesmith actually comes to the fight, and he is basically taunting Powerplex, saying that, oh look, you want Invincible? Well, here is Invincible. Then Shapeshift now shifts into Invincible, but Powerplex is not impressed. Powerplex does not want to fight Shapesmith. So Shapesmith is basically beating up Powerplex at first. He's basically giving him a lot of combos, but Powerplex, he has had enough. He realizes that, damn, this little plan is falling apart. So Powerplex, he now shoots Shapesmith with his electrical powers, and this causes Shapesmith to nearly get killed, even though he just got hurt really badly. So Powerplex now flees, and now we're seeing that Powerplex, he is actually trying to think of new ways to get Invincible to come to his location. And we see that, like the comics, his wife is actually going on with this plan. His wife really wants Invincible to face justice as well, because his wife feels the same pain, she feels the same agony that Powerplex is going through. And we're seeing that they're actually conspiring with each other to actually kill or hurt Invincible. And I really like how they actually showed the exact same characteristics they had from the comics. That's why I really like season 3, because even though, yeah, there are some things that they do that aren't unlike the comics, like Shrinking Ray and Rexplode. I know people like that relationship, but me personally, I don't like that relationship. I think Shrinking Ray should have died, but she's still alive. But we're seeing that Shrinking Ray, she's trying to quit the Guardians of the Globe, and when she tells Rexplode this, Rexplode is trying to convince Shrinking Ray to not leave, but Ray, her mind is made up, and she wants Rexplode to leave with her, but Rexplode's mind is made up as well, because Rexplode doesn't want to leave. This is the only thing he knew throughout his entire life, because remember, when the government took Rexplode away from his parents, they completely stripped everything that Rexplode knew. But Shrinking Ray, she is about to leave, but then they're not embraced and they now kiss. But we will probably see what will happen with this relationship after. I just had to gloss over that because I know people like this relationship, but I don't, because Shrinking Ray should have died, in my honest opinion. But we also see that Monster Girl, she gets a upgrade, and a good upgrade by Robot, because Robot has been working on this device slash belt that can actually help Monster Girl to keep her powers in check. And the way that this will happen is that, remember, every time Monster Girl, she transforms to the monster, 24 hours is actually taken away from her life. So every time she turns into a monster, she gets younger each and every time. So this belt can help Monster Girl to not go through that, and she can actually remain the same age. This is exactly what we saw in the comics, not in the same issue though, but still in the same comics. But now back to Powerplex. Powerplex is not stopping. He is not stopping until he gets invincible. So him and his wife conspire to do another thing that can at least try to goad Invincible to Powerplex's location, and that is the memorial for the 2,000 plus victims of the Chicago incident between Omni-Man and Invincible. And coincidentally, Invincible, Kid Omni-Man, the mom and the mom's boyfriend, and Adam Eve are all attending this memorial, because you know this happened because of Invincible's fight. So as they're attending and the speech is actually being given, we now see Powerplex. He crashes the party, he crashes this memorial, and he's trying again for the second time to get Invincible to come. This scene did not actually happen in the comics, and even though this scene didn't happen in the comics, I kind of like that they added it, because it shows Powerplex, he is not stopping to try to get Invincible to confront him one-to-one. So even though it's not from the comics, I like that they included it, because it actually highlights the big impact that that fight in Chicago did. Because if you're a civilian in any of these superhero worlds, and especially in Invincible, you will feel mad that someone like Invincible, who caused the death of your siblings or your loved ones, is still walking free. But you also have to understand that it wasn't Invincible's fault. Invincible was trying to stop Omni-Man, and Omni-Man is the sole reason that these people died. So you cannot put the full blame on Invincible, but if you were in Powerplex's shoes, you can see why he's putting the full blame on Invincible. So Powerplex, this plan failed, and the reason why it failed is because Adam Eve came in, and Adam Eve, she was temporarily fighting Powerplex. She subdued Powerplex, and this caused the Guardians of the Globe to arrest Powerplex. And while Powerplex was being transported to the prison, Powerplex, he breaks out and he now runs back home. Powerplex comes up with a plan that is so crazy enough, but it's a surefire plan to actually goad Invincible and to lure Invincible into a trap, and that plan works. You're probably asking to yourself, what is this big plan that Powerplex has? And this plan is that he is going to tie up his wife and his kid, and he is trying to basically make Invincible not have a choice in not coming anymore, because now there are innocent lives at risk, and this works. Invincible comes to the location, and we see a scene that is ripped straight from the comics. I really like the way they did this fight, because Invincible is trying to not fight Powerplex. Invincible is trying to talk him down. He is saying, all I can say is I am sorry. A lot of people died in that fight, and he is trying to tell Powerplex that, look, you have to calm down. I am sorry. But Powerplex is not stopping. Powerplex is still blaming Invincible for the deaths that was caused in that Chicago fight, especially the deaths of his sister and his niece. So as this fight is going on, we're seeing that Invincible, he is trying to hold back, but he's also trying to not get these innocent civilians killed. And as this is going on, I really like that they did this scene, man, as Invincible is trying to get the innocent hostages out of there. The wife spat on Invincible's face 1-to-1 with the comics. So this is actually really peak. I'm like, damn, these niggas are cooking. And they actually really cooked with this last scene, because like the comics, Powerplex grabbed Invincible's face. He's trying to electrocute Invincible's brain, but this sheer power caused the wife and the kid to be killed. During this attack, he finally realizes that, damn, now it's not just Invincible that caused people to die. Now I just caused people to die. I just caused my loved ones to die. And we see the ending of the fight when Invincible, he basically hugs Powerplex, and Powerplex is still trying to use his power. Then Powerplex eventually overloads, and then the fight ends, man. That scene was goated. They really did that scene justice, and I liked what they did after the fight when Powerplex is in the Stronghold Penitentiary, and Powerplex is still telling Invincible that I do not care about your apologies. I will try my hardest to get out of this prison and to kill you. I will not stop. So that was peak, but the episode doesn't end there. And the actual ending of this episode is with Angstrom Levi. He is preparing for the Invincible War, man, and that is so peak. I really liked how they made all of the Invincibles look in this last scene, but the thing is, this scene actually happened at the ending of issue 58, and issue 58 is actually supposed to be episode 5 of season 3, but this is episode 6 of season 3, aka issue 59. But you know, I'm a thing for comic book accuracy, but this scene I don't really care, because we're going to see the Invincible War, and there are actually 16 Invincibles in this Invincible War, but this episode had 15. But I also really don't care, because most of the Invincibles, they look comic accurate, their suits look comic accurate, and I can't wait for the next episode, man. This episode made you actually look into the shoes of a civilian going through what Powerplex is going through, because if you're a civilian and you see your loved ones get killed because of a superhero fight or a super villain trying to take over the world, in a way you will kind of feel mad. Now I don't know if you will feel as mad as Powerplex, but you will actually feel some type of way. So I liked how they highlighted this dynamic, man. This episode was good as fuck. I highly recommend checking out this episode. This episode was better than the last episode in my honest opinion, and it's possibly the best episode of the season so far. But that's the end of the video. I'm out. Peace.